Hello, this is Satori, and the Queen has been released. After many years, Katrina is finally legal again. Obviously, this is not confirmed for English yet, so yeah, you never know, might not get unbanned in English, but this is just a quick sample video for a deck list. Obviously, the deck has been banned and hasn't been labbed for a while, so I just wanted to show off a list for people to try just to get into the deck. Obviously, I think with time the deck will get more optimized, so don't be surprised if the deck list change quite a lot. But this is like the first draft that I came up with a little bit of help of Ben, well, more like inspiration from Ben, and tinkered with it myself. So yeah, let's go. So 1V starter can be any V starter, doesn't really matter. So like OT. Please ban these. 4 of the Strike crit. 4 of the Solon crit. And then this is for now a 9th crit, but it should be 2 fronts. 2 20k fronts. You always have a full front row ready to attack when swinging with Katrina. So this is pretty good, plus more shield value, so it's pretty nifty. 1 drop PG, we're playing PGs in the main deck, we'll get to that later. And 4 Heal Guardians. So that's the trigger lineup. For grade 1s, we have 4 Maiden of Sweetberry. So this is one of the best genetic token makers. The soul doesn't really matter, we don't have soul issues usually. But being 13k when you are on grade 3 is definitely important, and making a token obviously. So on Katrina turns, this is a pretty good target to call out from deck and copy with Gladiolus. So yeah, great grade 1. Then we have a little bit of early game, so these don't synergize too much with Katrina turns. However, Premium has evolved and we need good early game and a good ride-up, so the most important part of this card is that on ride you get to make a 10k token. Sometimes you search for the grade 2, which we do run some copies of, but the most important part is getting the 10k token most of the time. Obviously the second skill, if you call it over from hand on a 10k token, you get plus 5k and draw a card, so this lets you aggro on your write-ups sometimes. But yeah, the most important part, 10k token with intercept, is huge. So whoops, I'm skipping steps. So I'm testing 2 Roof. Counterblast is like interesting in this deck, which obviously Katrina doesn't cost a counterblast, but we do have a lot of counterblasts in our rear guards, and they don't impact our turns too much, but obviously they can either make more tokens or draw a card or enable multi-attacking. So this is just another good write-up, and also some access to counter charge. I think this will not end up in the final list, but I just wanted to try it, and it is probably one of our more convenient ways to counter charge besides heal guarding. And the last 3 grade 1s are the grade 1 PGs. So Lilga, this card is amazing because on Katrina you can call multiple of these, so let's say 2 or 3 depending on how many plant tokens you have on swing. So you call, let's say, 2 of these, use the effect, counterblast 1, bounce both of them back, and then continue doing what you want. So the beautiful part about this is, let's say, on let's just make a field and of random stuff. Let's pretend those like are tokens. And you get to call 4, let's say, this turn. So let's say you use the open slot, you call these 2 here, and then let's say, so we're not making this optimal. Let's just say we're calling 2 token makers here. So what you can do is you obviously call 4 cards out. Whatever was on the bottom goes to grave. You use the skill of Lilga's, counterblast 1, bounce these back. and then you use the skills of Sylvia's to call the tokens. So they don't even impede with your turns too much. They do make them awkward sometimes, but when you're not going for the kill turn, and you can afford to go for a little bit less of a push, and you can farm perfect guards if they're relevant in whatever matchup you're playing, that's amazing. So that's why I run these PGs. You usually don't need 4, they're pretty clunky. You usually only call 2 anyways, sometimes you can call 3. But yeah, also the cost, obviously counterblast 1, you don't need to counterblast 1 for each of them. It's counterblast 1, bounce all of them, up to 5, I think it even says. So yeah, up to 5, so stuff it bloom before you could copy names, so yeah, pretty cool. Going to grade 2s. So we have 2 of the grade 2 Gladiolus. This is also like iffy. I could see this getting bumped up, I could see this getting cut. This is not a vital piece, but just like the grade 1, the most important part is just getting the 10k token. The second skill, I would say, even less relevant, unless you're trying to win on ride up, which pretty difficult to do against most decks, but can happen sometimes. And obviously, we do run the grade 3 dragon. So sometimes you don't have the grade 3 in your hand, and searching for a grade 3 target just so you can ride is pretty good. For Sylvia, this card is just pretty much outdated, I would say. I'm still running it just because of how basic it is and how good it is in most situations, but it's never like amazing. It's only fine or okay in most situations. It's almost never bad, it's almost never amazing. So I think this card will get turned into different cards with more time and more labbing, but for now I'm running them because of how generic they are. To Tella, so the main part is counterblast 1, you get 2 tokens, which is pretty cool. So if you opened, let's say, with a pink dragon, you make a 10k token. So, and then ride this, you will have a full field. So obviously this is 10k, 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 not amazing. You can obviously change them around. You can make 15k columns with a little bit more investment. You can go even deeper, but on turn 2 you have 3 columns for 1 counterblast, absolute minimal investment. This is 10k shield as well, so that's pretty cool. The resist effect doesn't come up too often, but in some matchups I imagine setting it up could be relevant, so that's cool as well. 3 Element Soul. I feel like we have other counterblasts, other ways to use counterblast these days. This might get bumped up back to 4, maybe even less as well. As I said, a lot of things are tentative right now. It's just that I've been enjoying using Cello on turn 2, but this draws a card, makes a very strong column as well, which is very important. So like, if this has a token, a 5k token under it, it becomes a 25k column with the effect, so that's pretty good. Obviously you can call these off Katrina setups as well, if you need to spend your counterblast to turn into cards, so yeah, 3 is still good. Our multi-attack extender, Gladiolus, so if this card was boosted, you can counterblast 1 on the attack, copy a unit, call another one from deck with the same name. Pretty cool. Obviously you copy a token maker most of the time, and then you call out the token maker, and it calls a token, and the token will have plus 15k at least from Katrina and Cyclone combined, so it will be a 20k boost from whatever the base is, and if it's on a force marker, so you're looking at like a 43k column depending on what you called, so that's pretty good. This might get bumped down to 1 eventually with the new promo, but even with the new promo, I see you playing 2 of this and multiple of promos just to like, basically if your opponent gives you a lot of counterblast, you have plays of how to turn that counterblast into aggression. So this is why I'm not getting cut. Some people run 3. I have no issues of running just 2 of them so far. Obviously drawing it sometimes before you even use Katrina effect on swing, so you can basically go 1, 2, 3, Katrina 1, 2, 3, so do 7 attacks. Yeah, I might consider it, but obviously it does nothing in the early game as it's GP1, and it's a counterblast as well, which we have quite a lot of different cards that use a counterblast, so yeah. For the grade 3s, some people might be surprised to not see me put Enos here first. Spoiler alert, I am running Enos, but I would say Enos is not the main right target, and everyone was saying that if Katrina can ever come back, you need to ban Enos, you need to ban Cyclone together with it. Spoiler alert, we're living in 2023, if you ride Enos, you're doing nothing most of the time. I also, to make Enos really oppressive, you need to run a lot of cards that make Enos good, and I think it just makes your deck littered with bad cards that you normally wouldn't want to run, and you need a good write-up. So this is our answer to the current meta. If you need to aggress, this enables a 5 attack turn, which is pretty cool. Also, it sets up 10k intercept tokens, so you can end your turn sometimes on 3 or 4 or even 5 10k tokens, depending on how much you want to aggress. On swing, counterblast 1, draw a card, so you don't have to call cards. Counterblast 1, draw a card, you may call up to 2 cards on 10k tokens on your field, and the other skill is, so it has 3 skills. One of them is whenever you make a token, it becomes a 10k token, and they have intercept from back row. That's pretty cool because that works with G-guards, so when you're back on this, after you stride on your opponent's turn, when you call tokens on your opponent's turn, they become 10k tokens and it's more extra shield, so that does come up sometimes as well. It's like not as good as Enos plays, but you're still making more shield with some of your G-guards, which is pretty cool. And the other skill is to return a normal unit to the bottom of your deck, make 2 tokens. So yeah, you can make 2 10k tokens, and yeah, the third one, counterblast 1 on attack, draw a card, call up to 2 units on 10k tokens. So depending on what you have, you can obviously either call more tokens on multi-attack swings, or call a tree, draw a card, or call a pink dragon on a 10k token, draw a card, then gain 5k. So depending on how aggressive you want to be, so you can also damage deny, you can set up 10k tokens, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I think this is the best we have. Peony is another variant, but it like offers nothing outside of aggression. Peony is a good rear guard though, which also might be worth looking into in the future. And to finish off the main deck, we have 3 Enos. So this is still fine to ride. Obviously, with a Heal Guardian, you can go into Sacred Tree. And she has skill, whenever you place a unit by an effect, she gains plus 5k, which works on both turns. So when you call a unit with this, and let's say it's a token maker, then for the rest of the turn you gain plus 10k, you can call another Enos off of this. So with this, call an Enos effect, find a token maker, token, plus 15k for the rest of the turn. So very good against multi-attack decks, like, I don't know, shutting down Aqua Force, something that does make that, doesn't make big columns, but makes a lot of attacks. It's pretty good against. And it's a good rear guard. Obviously the plus 5k works on rear guard as well, so you can pump it up during main phase or while attacking. So it's still a pretty solid card, and a good backup ride as well. So that's the main deck. And the G-Zone. I only own 3 Katrinas. 4 don't come up that often anyway. I would probably run 4 though. But yeah, the game is usually done on the second one. You either won or lost. The third one comes up sometimes. I've strode the 4th one once in my life. So yeah. Obviously the flip target for Katrina is Cyclone. Again, I don't think you need 4. By the time you need the 4th, the game is either over, or the another plus 5k is probably not relevant by the time it's like Katrina gives plus 10k and just 3 of these is plus 25k. They're probably winning. So yeah, though you could definitely run both 4 of both of them and not feel bad about it. One Vladislava, slight answer to Mega Colony. Yeah, doesn't do much, but better than nothing. Sandrine, I don't know, you didn't have a Stride for her, and it's like better than nothing. Yeah, it's like niche situations. GB8, which is basically your fourth Katrina, and so in those long games sometimes this will come up, and that's a pretty solid GB8. So yeah, it also doesn't have a Counterblast or a Soul Blast cost, so it's pretty much free. So yeah, no reason to not run it. The only reason to not run it is that, well, we have quite a decent amount of good G-Guards, and if you want to run more of them, you can. So 2 of the new G-Guards says return 2 normal units from Drop Zone or Rear Guard, or 1 each. And if you return 2 of the same ones, it gains plus 15k, and you get a counter charge, which is pretty good. Antero, which is just a giant shield. Soul Blast 1 gains plus 5k, and then if you have 4 more or 1 or less rear guards, gains plus 15k. So it's a very easy big shield. Sacred Dragon already calls out the unit, gains plus 5k. Combos with Enos, combos with Gladiolus as well. So let's say the most basic thing you could do will be on Gladiolus Dragon is call out like you intercept away your front row, call a Sylvia, call a token, and you generated another 15k shield on your board, which is pretty cool. Also pretty funny, I wanted to say the Mega Colony, but never mind, Redora doesn't let you G-Guard anyway, so yeah. I would have said it's funny to call standing units, but that will never happen. And one of the G-Guard is basically Sacred Tree, but a little bit different. So that's the deck list. Obviously, I think this can get optimized a lot more. Deck will get better with time. The current standing of the deck in the current meta, I think it's actually not that good. If Highlander doesn't get hit, Highlander will be amazing. Obviously, both Highlander and Steam Maidens get hit. I think this deck is done okay when you don't need to worry about those decks, but like Spike Brothers exist, and Tavas and Nightmare Dolls still exist with other decks that are that have both and write downs, but I think with optimization and depending on the ban list, this deck can be at least a viable option, if not the best deck in the format, at least something decent to play. And maybe people will see better angles to play this deck, because so people really compare this to Galley, but the difference between this and Galley is that Katrina has a lot more defensive options. You don't need to play Unga Bunga Rush, and you obviously have some scaling with Cyclone as well and extra force markers, so that is inevitability to this deck as well. So yeah, I think it's not one note. Deck list might make this deck better, and yeah. Really happy to have this back. Maybe you'll get a more high quality video some next time, but for now, this has been Satori, and see you next time.